Hello, intern. This is Open Source Live, August edition, and these are my public accountability / monthly reviews on my way to. I kind of learned that phrase, but well, you see, is it? Well, we have some changes. So it's work on ASI or superintelligence as a machine learning researcher in a top Silicon Valley AI company, and that will probably happen in the next year and a half, and that is as kind of a mm, and kind of that is a part of a bigger program to find the job that I love, which means working on the right problem and the right craft and migrate to the nexus of where that work is being done. And that is contrary to what we've talked about for the past 6-7 months. So let's talk about that. Yes, previously we've talked about making that optional, and today I want to go over how I've seen my thinking go through over the next past 2 weeks, and it's not set in stone whatsoever. These are guesses, and I kind of just want to walk through my guesses because, and some of my worries with the guesses I'm making, and actually have it like public accountability or public way to express my thoughts and in a reasoned manner. Yes, so what we'll first do is we'll talk about kind of my thinking from the past 2 weeks. As we talked about, I was not sure, but I laid out my reason on why making on longevity might be not the right problem to work on, even though I've spent like 7 months doing that and doing my thesis. Well, it's 7 months is less than a life, so or 20 years, so it's still good pivot timing. So let's talk about it. Basically, that's how I see the argument. I think that for thinking on what problem to work on, the best criterion I found on what problem it should be is what is the most likely existential risk for me or humanity in the next around 50 years. So I'm 21. I have a bunch of time if I live reasonably healthy and I don't do motorcycle stuff, and or someone just get unlucky and hit by bus. I think the best criteria I can find for maximizing my positive impact is just to make sure that everything we have here is not multiplied by zero. I can see kind of more arguments and thinking of what you should, the job you should do as kind of a portfolio. You invest in making sure that nothing is multiplied by zero. You also invest in making sure that we keep on progressing, or you increase the floor of, the floor of, let's say, helping people in the most need, but you also raise the ceiling of doing cutting edge research. So like a general portfolio, that's all complicated and that's all long to explain. And I think there's also it's just work about work a lot. I think a simple criteria that I find very useful is just to say, what is the most likely existential risk for me and humanity in the next 50 years, and work on that. When I clarify that criterion, I realized that longevity is around the 50-year problem. So it's going to happen. I'm around 21. Thankfully, I'm right now young. And so I have a lot of time before disease, aging, and death eventually killed me. And there might be in those 50 years more pressing problems to work on, while death is a very important problem, and I have or aging and disease, I have no intention of dying before I'd like to die. There might be more pressing problems to work on in that time that might solve the aging problem and the disease problem, i.e. powerful AI systems, right? And basically, doesn't matter if we have the AGI, ASI in the next 5 or 10 years or 20 years. What matters that it happens somewhere around those 50 years, and it happens early enough where the AI R&D automatization or just any feedback loop of AI research starts early enough where we can see crazy impacts happen, where AI tries to kill all of us, or there are a lot of bad worlds where it doesn't kill all of us, and yet it is still the most pressing problem to work on. As we can see, AI itself can pose some problems. It can pose that it's just a very powerful tool and people can use to make engineering pandemics or World War III, many scenarios where AI is a more pressing problem over the next 50 years because, one, it just can happen faster, and one can say, well, it will happen somewhere around, let's say, maybe even 40 years. It will still be the bigger thing than longevity. So that made me, after doing more research, as we've talked about the past months, for a few weeks, it made me realize that I do think that is a reasonably, so it's hard to make a case of whether ASI or AGI happens in the next 5 years or in the next 10 years. These are hard cases to make, or even in the next 20 years. But saying that, it's much easier to say that somewhere around next 20 years, we see some system that is reasonably capable and helps us to do reasonable improvement in just, it has reasonable reinforcing feedback loops for AI R&D, and that can lead to crazy impacts. So making that case is much easier and say that somewhere around next 50 years, maybe a bit earlier, it does happen. We kind of can say, I mean, in some way, ChatGPT is already pretty helpful to all the AI research. And even if it doesn't do the work directly that they do, they save them so much time that we already see some feedback loops. So that case can already be made. So that case is much easier to make, and I'm much more certain in making that case than on AGI or SASI anywhere soon. And that, but that is still decisive case enough where it decisively rebuts the idea of working on longevity, because AI becomes more pressing problems with more impactful outcomes that can happen that can also solve longevity. And it doesn't have to solve all aging and disease like this. It's not a god, but it can, as long as it solves longevity escape velocity, where it makes sure that we are solving longevity problems, we're de-aging us faster than we age, then it's already good enough. And that's also a much easier case to make over the next 50 years than saying everything is done and we have made death. Like, death is officially optional, right? So these framings are much easier to defend and seem still realistic, which made me to think that working on superintelligence might be a better choice of a problem to contribute my next 50 years to. And yeah, now the point is, superintelligence and all the implications that can have as a problem, as an issue, there are a lot of them. There are many parts. There can be alignment. There can be that in the next 50 years, we actually do not get such capable systems, and thus we must work on capabilities of those systems, be it chips or be it algorithms to make it actually work. We can see also World War III type of scenarios or some power. I'm just kind of citing the 80,000 hour, to be honest, reasoning here, but it's just because I genuinely do agree with a lot of what they're saying. Let's say we can see some capable AIs that are developed in USA. We can easily see how that can disbalance power over the whole world, and thus, other countries want to intervene and maybe intervene violently, and that's a serious issue. We can see how also can be done pandemics engineering with such capable AI systems, which can kill all of us, or lead to the next COVID or next plague, but 10 times worse, which would literally mean pretty bad. Or other societal issues, let's say the distribution of wealth when we have such crazy systems available. Like, is it communism now all along, or do we keep on with capitalism and we have like a gazillion X difference in wealth people have? These are hard questions. So I am not sure which of those parts is more pressing. I just find that the cases for making that ASI, that some capable AI systems will happen in the next 50 years, early enough for reinforcing feedback loops to start, and early enough for some crazy impacts to happen. This seems like a more likely and stronger case than working on longevity, and that being a more pressing issue. Which part of that case is the most important thing to work on? I do not have an opinion yet on. Yet another kind of thinking I had developed through that is that when you're trying to approach whatever each of those parts, be it alignment capabilities, pandemics, societal issues, power, like national security, basically, the best option to start with seems actually learning machine learning engineering and research, because it puts you in the best position down the line, even if you're not sure what to do. And I do believe in the very strong cases for alignment and capabilities as probably being the best thing you can work on. I am not sure, so I need to do more research. But it seems already like it's the best choice. And even if it's not, you cannot really be a national security advisor without knowing anything about basically the technology, and also just by being a random guy from Netherlands. So it's just actually the best option down the line to work on it, where you can then do a lot of help with pandemics engineering and making sure this doesn't happen, or thinking of how societal issues should be structured, or helping with the national security. So even if alignment capabilities becomes not the most pressing issue, starting as a machine learning engineer and research and working your way towards to address other issues seems just like the best option, or the best starting point down the line. So that is all early. It's like within, all this thinking is within a 1 month period, and pivoting is always a split, especially publicly, is pretty painful, because you have to say what you've been doing before is wrong. But it's better also to pivot early than keep on continuing when you know something is wrong. So I'm not sure what is the structure, honestly, afterwards, and I need some water. I guess we'll just go through the structure. This is my thinking right now. I'm not, I do tend to speak sometimes more confidently than I perhaps have some ideas. I just do want to stress this, that this is pretty early, but this is how I see my thinking. And I try to stress test my thinking. And so this is the kind of pivoting in a way I'm thinking of right now. But I do think fundamentally, I just need to do more research down the line in machine learning. And some things will just become more clear with time. So for now, this is kind of my thinking on the pivoting. And of course, it's pretty painful to pivot publicly, but it's better to work on important problem and dedicate your life to that than look like a fool for one video, or maybe two. So now let's talk about structure. We'll talk about past progress, where I am right now, what is the strategy, what are the main risks, how do we address them, projects I'm betting on, the past months went, and the goals for the next one. Pretty chill. Swiss fucking watch strategy doesn't really changes a bit. First of all, I'm not sure if inputs and outputs is really the right framework here. I'm not sure it gives any value. So for now, we just grade them out. Let me also see the timing, so we know. Okay, 12 minutes in is good. So the strategy kind of stays the same. Basically, I need to be more explicit with what are the guesses I'm making for the problem to work on and for the craft to work on finding the job I'd love. And I have to stress test them more, because I can see many scenarios where if I was more explicit was that I'm going for longevity, this is my choice of a problem. I'm going for longevity researcher / ML engineer. This is my craft. And if I try to stress test that, I can just, make an argument that maybe AI systems eventually will become more impactful, and maybe I should work on that. And if I just was more explicit with that, with my main best cases for what criticisms are to my problem guesses and my craft guesses, I could have pivoted much earlier. I also, not spend 7 months on doing all of that and already be 7 months in on the problem and craft, I think is a better guess. So just being as explicit about, and do a lot of stress testing about those things. So that's a strategy to make sure that my problem and my craft are right. Then once I have them, just do ambitious projects and share it with others. That doesn't change. Live as frugally as possible, be a cockroach, and earn either from projects or from work on the side. But we are in exploratory mode right now, and you have to live as frugally as possible. You have to be a cockroach, and I'm embracing the lifestyle of cockroach. And then you have to, then the last part of strategy is to pursue specifically projects that help with O1 criteria. While as even before, like superintelligence or longevity, migrating to the nexus is about migrating to Silicon Valley, and there are not a lot of problems where it's not the right choice, and that is still the goal. And while I try to get those criteria, make sure my NL visa is safe and well. So that's a Swiss fucking watch strategy. So what are the main risks from getting there to here? From here to there. Yes, so the main risk that actually has happened is that there was a poor feedback loop of testing the problem and craft guesses, and lack of truth seeking, and a bit being dogmatic about it. That it actually has happened. Like we literally talked for 7 months that, that's an important real risk, and well, 8 months or 7 months down the line, it actually fucking happens. Pretty lovely. So I wanted to change a bit how do I approach that risk, because fundamentally I think it's about, I previously said, try to take seriously the idea of cheapest test. I'm not sure that was the correct thing. I first need to make sure that I know what are the main risks and main criticisms for both the problem and the craft I'm choosing. Once I know those main risks or main criticism, then I can think of what is the cheapest test for each of those criticisms or each of those risks. And can I do that test very quickly to find out if it's bad or not? Sometimes it's just kind of a test of reasoning, right? So you just need to make sure that you know what are the best criticisms against your guesses are, or your theories are, to sometimes refute those theories. So there's not like a lot of real life tests you can do, and there's nothing like a real life test I've done to know that I don't want to do longevity. It's more like I realized that, holy shit, my reasoning was flawed probably, and was a bit dogmatic and wasn't clear enough, as it is maybe more clearer right now. So that's just knowing what are the best criticisms and the main risk of the choices you're making, where they can fuck up most likely. And if I were doing that for longevity, I would say that like AI is just more impactful down the line and happens faster. And I would already start thinking about that and maybe pivot faster. Yeah. And then applying the cheapest decisive test to that is a learning from MCP blog review that I'll publish first, and then that, so you can learn more about it. But the idea is that Vinod Koshla talks about how you want to kill your main risks first, and you want to start with that because it gives you confidence, and otherwise you pivot as fast as possible. Genius, agreed. Very good idea. The point is, how do you test them? Sorry, you kind of go, and how do you go about those main risks? You apply the fucking cheapest decisive test idea. You try to test them as fast as possible, to either kill them or find out that they kill the project you're working on as fast as possible, as cheaply as possible, as like a scientific method type of thing. And that's where you apply this mental model, and I was very happy to connect those two dots. Boy, that's a lot of talking today. Because I also just recorded the blog MCP review, and it's also like 30 minutes, so pretty painful on the voice. Then another main risk is poor project batching, right? So just low return, fuck up the scope. I really like the phrasing of doing what is familiar, not what is right. And it's pretty painful, but it's exactly the thing. It's like, let's say you want to work on longevity, and instead of, I don't know, maybe learning it on your own for a textbook, which seems a more right option, you do what's familiar and just do another university degree. So I think that's pretty important. So that means it's just being more explicit in what projects you're betting on. Be harsh on the scopes, on the deadlines, just more explicitly think about it. Another main risk is poor budget management. You just run out of money. For that, I make sure that I spend as a cockroach, and I know my number of months in savings, and I have specific plans for when I'm planning to raise capital. I have fellowships, or sometimes, earn money from the project or ask for loans from friends. So there are a few ways I can approach it. Then poor visa management. Is it either I fuck up my Netherlands visa or my O1, so I pursue wrong projects? So again, whenever you're betting the projects, always think of what are O1 criteria I'm going for, and which projects should I choose to get those criteria. And just, with the NL, it's pretty simple. Just make sure you don't fuck up the deadline to apply to. And I'll have my orientation visa started from this November to the next November. And then I must have also a plan. How do I plan to get the NL passport? And, just have to think about it eventually. And last is to underestimate the time it takes to acquire knowledge. And just all this project, I underestimate, instead of 1 or 2 years, it takes 2 to 5, right? And it's just about managing expectations, having some reasonable plan. I don't know if I have a plan for 5. I'd rather not do it in 5. But also just like finding the job you love is such an important problem that in your life, that it's okay actually to even spend 5 years in it, because then you can spend the next 45 doing actually what you love. Yeah, these are the main risks, and how do I plan to kill them? Now let's talk about projects I'm betting on. So just O1 requirements to remind ourselves. basically, I think it's important to explicitly state that I'm making now a guess that superintelligence is a more pressing and important issue to work on. It's much more likely to be an existential risk for me or humanity in the next 50 years. And then I'm making a guess that machine learning research, so being an engineer slash actual machine learning researcher, is the best craft to start and maybe in the long term as well. And I still need to do more research about it, but whatever part of superintelligence problem I'd like to work on, ML research is the best craft to start with. And talking about killing main risks, what are the main criticisms for both of those guesses that I see? The main one is that AI models just won't get capable quickly enough for significant impacts to occur. Most AI arguments are based on herd/hype, not sound reasoning. Like when I think about, having the goal of working on superintelligence as an ML researcher in a top Silicon Valley, i.e. just SF, practically AI company. I mean, this sounds like the most hypey type of a job there is in the world right now, the most herd-like, and that makes me pretty worried because am I having actually good reasons for what I'm doing, or just I'm following the herd? Let's check time, 21. We're good. And to say that, I will also talk about learnings that part, but it's also important not to be contrarian for the sake of being one. And I think partially that explains why I was also pursuing longevity. I was so psyched about it. Is that it was a contrarian to all the AI hype and AI trend we see right now. But sometimes trends like the hypes are correct, and you have to take them seriously sometimes, and many times they're also wrong. Yeah, so there is a fine, you don't want to be like, we'll talk about it, but contrarianism is just of a mistake as conformity. But conformity is just as a mistake as contrarianism. They're both significant mistakes. And yeah, we as humans so like to mimic, so like to follow the herd and the hype that just makes me worried that my now leading guesses are so popular right now. And the best kind of way to defend myself from following under this is just to stress test those guesses as much as possible. Make sure my reasoning is sound. I know the criticisms, and maybe tell them publicly. Then last one is that making that optional is such a huge industrial problem that even capable AI models will take more than 50 years to solve. So it's industrial problem. It's like it's a type of a problem where you build bridges. It's not like you make a Git pull request and boom, everything works. Yeah, so it's I see that criticism, but also it's like we need to get to longevity, escape velocity. So there are a lot of things that can go right that don't need to take us, delivering the solution to everyone, every person in the world, and its appeal, and it cures everything magically. No, it doesn't have to be. It can be iterative, gradual, and so on. And for ML research, right? Societal impacts of World War III is more pressing than capable models or aligned models. And the best way, I don't know how much help I can do with national security and memos of how we should handle this situation with China or how Europe should handle it. But maybe going directly there is a bit of a better path. Of course, it is a better path because I can start already doing the research in it. I don't need to know how, this decision trees work, and I can do just fine with just having some idea of how LLMs work and societal impacts and so on. But also just thinking about it, I'm not sure those are the most pressing problems. I think aligned models might be a bigger issue, or models where they are used for some bad things like engineered pandemics might be more pressing. And I think a risk that I'll add seriously is that alignment is insoluble problem. This is something Eliezer Yudkowsky talks about. I have not done more research, but Eliezer is one of the prominent alignment researchers beside Paul Cristiano, and he's done 20 years of thinking on the problem. And maybe that fucks up the whole superintelligence thing, and maybe I have to work on something else that gives us higher chances of success, like can be augmentation of superintelligence of any intelligence with humans and so on. So I'll write it down, and I think also it's an important criticism that I'm pretty worried about. While the other ones, the cheapest test to check if AI models get capable quickly enough is just to test it. Sadly, no one really knows where they go, whether in the next scaling of LLMs will be as helpful and as impactful as it was before. We just have to test it. We just have to spend hundreds of billions of dollars and check. All right, talking about projects I'm betting on. Basically, if you haven't, of course, I mean, I don't expect you to see the blog MCP review, but one project I was thinking of working on as a, well, actually, let me clarify one of the two. So basically now the pivot is that instead of doing longevity research and ML engineering, at the same time, we are abandoning the longevity researcher path, of course, and we're abandoning the longevity right now. Of course, I do still want that problem to be solved. It's maybe that I don't want to spend all of my waking time about that problem because it's not most pressing. Now we just fully bet on ML engineering as the best craft and superintelligence as the problem. That means we need to now become really good as an ML engineer, an ML researcher, and get to the top company and so on, and work on problems. So the question becomes now, what are the best projects to do that? One guess that kind of appeared to me in my head, and then it stuck more because was the blog MCP, or basically taking a popular blog online like Paul Graham's essay on marginal revolution and connecting it to an LLM, and so it can give you more precise answers with specific quotes and references. Turns out, where you see here is a question mark, where I was planning to do that. So I was like, should I record first the review or should I do a bit more research into this project? Happy that I did more research, because now I can tell you this project is not happening. Because we did the cheapest test possible, in which I'm deeply, oh no, yeah, is that the same? Yes, okay, it must be the same color. I did the research, and basically the answers, I did kind of the MVP, I coded it proudly. It remarkably works exactly as I was planning it to. Scraped all the data from Paul Graham's essay, chunked them, vectorized them, passed them into database, connected the database with the VS Code as an MCP server. Now it can talk as a chatbot in VS Code. You ask it the question, it uses does the RAG with the website and gives you plus minus the same answer as a Perplexity search would give you, which means there's not even 10x, but at least 1.5x improvement or 2x improvement. So the whole project kind of derails and it's not worthy of pursuit, which means I save myself like from 2 to 4 weeks, which I'm deeply happy about, because I could have spent it on making this thing work for all the popular blog posts like Marginal Revolution, the Rakesh Patel, Acquired, All In, and so on, a lot. Because this could work for many blogs. But the point is, Perplexity does reasonably good search with it. So great, because Perplexity is basically a rag over the whole internet. So here we are. But I'm deeply happy about this, because this was an amazing fast iteration, fast checking, and I can save myself 2 to 4 weeks and now work on more important projects with better payouts of first fucking finally finishing the machine learning specialization, because it's been for a while now, and I kind of took a while because then I was fully focused on learning longevity, and I kind of was a bit neglecting this course. And then I was like, fuck, should I pivot? And it's another 2 weeks down the bin, and now finally we can do ML specialization, finish it. Depending on the depth, it will be 10 to 16 days. Once I'm done there, what I'm betting on is that basically we need already to publish grant priorities and trade-offs of longevity scientists. Even though I'm not working on longevity, I do think this is genuinely important research with genuinely important insights that are useful for meta science and for longevity. Yeah, this just should be known publicly. And I should also just get the rewards of publishing this online. And this can also help me with raising the fellowship. So we'll have a clear momentum. I'll finish my ML specialization. I'll publish the grant priorities and trade-offs. And here we get to the OPCD fellowship. So with the red is finance risk. Basically, right now I'm living off around 1K a month. I have money until Oh yeah, sorry. I have money until end of November. If I sell everything, like my stocks and everything, yeah, this is different from September because I got also some work on the side. And basically, what I'm trying to do is now maybe not until mid-October because I do not need to do blog MCP projects. Is that I finish this before the start of October. So it's like basically finish this in September and then apply to Open Philanthropy Career Development Fellowship in September or by the end of September. And then they will reply within a month or so. And then I'll be able to know if I need to pursue other fellowships or not. So that will also kill the finance risk, which I'm pretty happy about, if, of course, it happens. So that saved me a lot of time. And yeah, in November, I'll need to apply for orientation visa in NL, but that's enough. That's not now. And planning for an NL passport, also not anywhere time soon. And yeah, I'm also betting that open source life and coming here every month, and I must tell you, I'm tired. It's 9 p.m. and my voice is dying. Is a good use of my time, and it clarifies my thinking. And yeah, it's just a good thing to do. Yeah, so actually September will be pretty impactful. Yeah, because if we go to September goals, we can see that basically now publishing MCP project blog goes fucking to hell because we don't need it, and I'm pretty happy about that. Which means I need to finish ML spec, I need to publish priorities and trade-offs, and then we can change it. You can tell a lot by the person's emoji, most popular emojis. Basically, apply to OPCD. This would be a pretty impactful month. And yeah, work more than 270 hours and spend less than 1.1K with a bit of buffer. And also, I think it would be good to see our bit productivity porn slide of the months and the quarters and how they went. Q1 quarter was about finishing business bachelor, making sure I don't get out of country, and doing the great thesis stats of priorities and trade-offs. Q2 was basically longevity. Actually, let's fucking do it. For 2.5 months of biology textbook and learning actually biology, a bit of CS50i, a bit of ML spec, and sending a bunch of emails. And then mid-August realizing that, holy shit, might be pursuing a different, less pressing problem than I should. So it's like 150 days in. Oh, lovely. And yeah, Q3 now starts. We have a simplification of many things. So for example, I still have just a basic ML knowledge, and I have savings till November 30th. I actually think it's perfect to do it just like this, to be honest, because I want to simplify this. You can see this here was a thing before, we're simplifying it. So XYZ GPTs were basically blog MCPs before. Fuck that. We need to do 3 things. We need to do ML spec. Oops. Come on. ML spec, trade-offs, and open field grant. And then we can go deeper into learning machine learning skills and actually applying, doing real small projects with machine learning. Hopefully, I mean, we don't know the timeline specifically, but this has to be perfect. But basically, we now start to be very serious about learning, becoming a machine learning researcher and engineer. So I was thinking of how to do this, as an athlete or an Olympian would train for their competitions. For now, I think it's just good. You need, regardless of what you're doing, you need fundamentals. ML specialization is one of the best places to do that. Just don't over-engineer it also. Just get it done. Yeah, it's a bit painful to know that 180 days in, we're kind of, how far we got. I don't know. In a way, we pivoted to, we probably pivoted on the problem, which is important. We clarified the craft. We have a thesis that we need to publish, and we might get a fellowship. So we're somewhere. In a way, you could say the first 3 months, like it's business bachelor, you can't do a lot. But in 3 months, it's also good progress. Depends how you look. I definitely want to be more urgent, right? And mistakes and learnings now for the August. Basically, contrarianism is just as wrong as conformity. I think that was an important thing to understand. Truth-seeking is what we truly strive for. It doesn't matter if it goes against the herd or for the herd. You must try to see as clearly as possible reality. And talking about contrarianism is like, I'm not sure to fully extent this is correct, but I think, yes, Phil is known as contrarian. And yet when you think of, he says that Facebook is one of his best investments, yet it was made around peak social media mania, right? So I'm not sure. I would want a bit more resources to explicitly say that this is social media mania peak. But I do think social media was a pretty well-known idea at the time, and many people were pursuing it. And sometimes you just want to ride the rocket ship. Sometimes what the hype or the right choice is in the herd, in the very small group of people in Silicon Valley, is also just actually a correct thing to do. And you don't need to be contrarian to the contrarian and so on. Sometimes just the general trend is correct and people should execute on it and ride on it. And last learnings for August is that sometimes important decisions like problem I'm pursuing, guess I'm pursuing, what general life philosophy I have, some kind of the goals that I want to pursue, you must write them down and know explicitly what are your strongest criticisms for them. So you can know when each of those options can fuck up, and you can then change them. I think it's important. Yeah, and I think then for each of the main risks for each of the options, you also might want to think about what is the cheapest way to test for that risk. What is the fastest way I can test them? And if there are any fast ways, test and kill some of those risks so you know if the option is good or not. And that is kind of connecting the blog MCP idea. Whew. Okay, I think these are mistakes and learnings for the August. September is going to be pretty impactful, I think, because it's not just grinding and getting more biology pages or courses. We need to publish finally the thesis, and we're going to apply for the fellowship. And yeah, so I expect a lot of action. Well, I see you in October, around start of October, and I hopefully come with you and tell you some good stuff, or we grind further. Well, yeah, I'm tired. Have a good day, guys, and see you in the months.